It is safe to say that Motown's legacy would in no way be complete without the Tall Temptin Temptations.
You had 5 great-looking 6-foot or more singers. They dressed better than anybody else. They danced better than anybody else. They sung better than anybody else.
In their prime, they were untouchable.
Melvin Franklin, Eddie Kendricks, David Ruffin, Otis Williams, Paul Williams, and in 1968, when longtime St. Louisan Dennis Edwards replaced Ruffin, he became part of the second classic era lineup.
The Temptations were gods to me.
Classy, sophisticated, and blessed with voices that complemented one another flawlessly.
We used to grow up wanting to be them, to emulate them.
No, we're not just gonna stand and sing. We're gonna flash. We're gonna sell sex.
The Temptation Walk was the thing. It was an attitude. It was an amazing attitude where you could walk out onto a dance floor and it was the way they walked. It was the way they moved.
They gave you more than your money's worth, not just on the record, but if you were lucky enough to see them in a concert or on television, they gave you a show.
However, with success came trials, conflicts, politics, and internal wrangles that threatened the group's unity and ultimately led to the departure of some of our favorite members.
Papa, they came to see you, Papa. They didn't come to see nobody else but you, Papa.
Once a person signed with Motown and got hit, the vultures were out there, man. Everywhere you went, there were people saying, hey, I can do this for you. Now, you know, Barry may be doing this, but I can do this, and I can do so-and-so.
And when David told us it should be David Ruffin and the Temptations, we said, oh, no. And he came to my door and bam, bam, bam. I said, Otis, if you open the door, you and his brother will fight, and there will not be another show.
There was a confrontation. It got very explosive.
We were at a club outside of Detroit, and Al and Paul got into an argument. Al opened Paul's face up at the bottom.
Richard was hurt. Richard was upset, which I understand because he was there from the beginning. Not just there from the beginning, but he was the one that taught Melvin how to do bass.
Here are some of the bizarre reasons behind their leaving. When the group started out, they struggled to find success.
The Temptations, we were trying to get some hits on them. We couldn't get any hits in them.
And the lack of instant recognition in their early years was frustrating, especially for one individual, the restless Elbridge Al Bryant.
The original Temptations were starting to hit their stride late in 1963, but Bryant wasn't long for the game.
He was known to have a temper, particularly when under the influence of alcohol.
Now, he had an edge to him. You give him a little alcohol, I was ready to gin, and I mean fight.
As a backup plan, he took a job as a milkman because he saw little hope for the group's future. Things took a dark turn in mid-1963 when, according to reports, a backstage altercation between Bryant and Paul Williams resulted in Bryant smashing a beer bottle across Paul's face, sending him to the hospital.
And Elvis started to drink. And he said, hey, I don't really need this. I got a job in a dairy. They called me to do this. He said, I don't really need this.
There was a confrontation. It got very explosive.
We were at a club outside of Detroit, and Al and Paul got into an argument. Al opened Paul's face up at the bottom.
Although he escaped immediate punishment, it would not be long before his fate was sealed. During Motown's 1963 company Christmas party, Bryant gave a disastrous performance on stage and refused to participate in the dance routine Paul had arranged. As a result, he was fired and replaced by David Ruffin.
We were on stage at the Fox Theater, and then it's still Al, Paul, Melvin, Eddie, and myself. And Paul, being such a fantastic creator as far as dancing, him and Melvin jumped off into a movement on stage, and the audience at the Fox Theater went crazy. So I said, Al, come on, man, we got to do that. Al said, no, man, we the pretty boys. Let them do it. We'll just stay back and be cool. And that's when I said, no, he's got to go to myself. And that was the reason why we let Al go into David Ruffin.
I know you want to leave me. I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go.
Known for his powerful, hair-raising tenor vocals, David Ruffin was one of the greatest things ever to happen to the Temptations. With his slick style, sharp dance moves, and dramatic knee drops, this brother was as cool as ice. However, as the group's success grew, so did his ego.
He used to travel with us because we had a big station wagon and we had a Fleetwood Cadillac, for our musicians and for the group. But after we really started making money, David decided to get his own limo, and he had David Ruffin with his glasses.
I guess you heard about the limousine with the glasses. And everyone else was riding the station wagon, so I guess that wasn't too appropriate, but they could have rolled with me if they wanted to.
He refused to ride on the bus with the other members, and his cocaine addiction caused him to miss important engagements.
There were numerous conversations about David's ego when it was hurting the makeup of the group, not showing up at rehearsals, not coming into the last minute before a show.
His goose was truly cooked when he reportedly wanted the group renamed David Ruffin and the Temptations, similar to the billings of Diana Ross and the Supremes, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, and Martha and the Vandellas.
I became Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. We became Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, and Diana Ross and the Supremes.
And when David told us it should be David Ruffin and the Temptations, we said, oh, no.
When we first started out, we made a vow that we would not change, because we had heard about Frankie Lyman leaving the Teenagers and Tony Williams leaving the Platters, so we made a vow.
He had crossed the line, and when he skipped a scheduled engagement to attend a performance by his girlfriend, he was voted out of the group in 1968.
One of his guys that worked for him, he came to our dressing room, he said, David said for y'all to hold it down with 4, he's gonna go and see his girl open up and he'll rejoin you guys after he see opening act. That's when the 4 of us said, we gotta let him go.
To David, however, that was not how he saw it.
Well, all the headlines said I was fired, but I didn't see how you could fire someone out of a group of that magnitude. I just think that was time for a change, and life lands a crushing blow sometimes, But there were some differences business-wise, and at that time, things just could not be smoothed out.
Whether or not he was fired, one person who definitely was not was Eddie Kendricks, the tall, slender falsetto singer. Eddie had the charm, the sugar, the spice, and everything nice.
You surely must know Magic Girl, 'cause you changed my life. A smile so bright, you know you could have been a candle.
However, because of what he saw as a change in the group's direction, he became increasingly unhappy and gradually drifted apart from the other members. Feeling marginalized and frustrated by the internal conflicts, he chose to leave in 1971 to pursue a solo career.
I started to make the decision in 1965 to leave the group because of things that I thought weren't quite proper. It had nothing really to do with the group. It was a business. We were working with people in the business that I thought didn't quite have our interests at heart.
While Eddie left because of frustrations within the group, his boyhood friend Paul Williams left because of frustrations with his health. Paul was widely regarded as the heart and soul of the group.
Williams was the backbone of the Temptations, the man who held us together.
Through his choreography, dancing, and stage presence, he always brought life and excitement to every performance.
And Paul Williams was very, very important to the Temptations because he was the catalyst for us being noted for the choreography. We could stand there and sing, we'll sing a group into the ground. But Paul said, no, we're not just gonna stand and sing. We're gonna flash. We're gonna sell sex.
Who plans out the numbers? Well, Paul most of the time. We take it from there. Where's Paul? Paul, are you a professional dancer? No. Who taught you to move and dance?
Well, I wasn't taught. I guess it just come naturally.
However, after being diagnosed with sickle cell anemia, his role in the group was significantly reduced. From losing his position as lead singer to having Charlie Atkins take over as the group's choreographer, Paul increasingly turned to alcohol to cope with his pain and frustration. In April 1971, Paul Williams officially retired from the group on the advice of his doctor, who had discovered a spot on his liver.
And he was a great singer who really felt a song and made you believe it. I remember there was one song he sang that used to stop the show every night. And when I hear it today, I can't help but think of Paul. I really do miss him.
As the group transitioned from Smokey Robinson's romantic ballads to Norman Whitfield's psychedelic soul, one man proved to be exactly what the Temptations needed: the dynamic Dennis Edwards. Brought in to replace David Ruffin, he quickly established himself as the perfect addition to the group. However, like his predecessor, he eventually found himself at odds with the group's leadership, resulting in him being dismissed a record 3 times between 1977 and 1989. The playful Melvin Franklin, with his unmistakable deep bass voice, remained with the group until illness forced him to reduce his touring schedule. He ultimately passed away in 1995 after suffering a brain seizure. Richard Street, who was brought in to replace Paul Williams, remained with the group until 1993, when he left because of what he described as the deterioration of the family feeling within the group. After missing a show because he had been hospitalized to have 17 kidney stones removed, he had a falling out with Otis Williams, who confronted him and demanded to know why he had missed the performance, since the information had not been relayed to him. Street felt that Williams showed little concern for his condition and decided it was time to move on. He was replaced by Theo Peoples. Theo Peoples left in 1998 because of creative differences, struggles with drug addiction, and a desire to pursue solo projects. Ali Woodson, who had been brought in to replace Dennis Edwards, was dismissed in 1987 because of attendance issues and internal disagreements. He returned in 1988 before leaving again in 1996 after being diagnosed with throat cancer. Damon Harris, who replaced Eddie Kendricks, was fired in 1975 after allegedly giving an impromptu speech thanking the audience for helping the group. In his words, "Buy these fine mink coats and beautiful cars and homes and diamonds." His replacement, Glenn Leonard, formerly of the Unifix, left the group in 1984 to pursue a new calling as a born-again Christian. Ricky Owens, who was brought in to replace Eddie Kendricks, was fired after allegedly forgetting the words to his solo numbers because of nervousness. Louis Price, who replaced Dennis Edwards in 1979, left in 1980 after the group reunited with Edwards following its return to Motown. Ray Davis, who joined after Melvin Franklin's health began to decline in 1993, left the group in 1995 after being diagnosed with lung cancer. Do you think some dismissals were justified?
Talking about my girl.